This is CBS.
Shaky start for week 2 on Wall Street. Coming up at 11, the second worst drop in market history. Traders are calling it black and blue Monday. Financial pressures lead to murder in Miami. An investor kills his broker. And the government star witness has the defense claiming victory in the Howard Beach case.
New York City police looking for a missing 6-year-old boy tonight. Will an extra lane cause extra headaches for Lincoln Tunnel commuters? And is the royal honeymoon really over for Charles and Di? Warner with some rough action on the ice. Frank Field with the forecast. Channel 2 News at 11 is next.
Now, Michelle Marsh, Mike Schneider, Warner Wolf, Dr. Frank Field, and the Channel 2 News team. This is Channel 2 News at 11. Everything you need to know, because anything can happen in New York.
Hello, Michelle Marsh has this night off. Bree Walker is joining us. A brand new week, the same old problem on Wall Street. Losses, big losses. The market got off to a very shaky start today with investors losing millions. Complete coverage of the Dow's dilemma, plus the tragic consequences. Murder in Miami, an investor who lost millions and all hope. We'll find out how the president and congressional leaders hope to turn things around. And we begin with the end. It came 2 hours early and not a moment too soon. The closing bell ending the second worst day in Wall Street history. The Dow Jones Industrial Average plunging more than 156 points, closing at 1793. This is one of those days that they refer to as across-the-board losses. Losers exceeded winners here on Wall Street by a 13-to-1 margin at the New York Stock Exchange. The trouble in New York apparently was triggered by big declines in the overseas stock markets. Hong Kong's exchange, closed for 4 days last week, plunged 33% today. Tokyo and London were way down, too.
The major stocks in this country are traded around the world 24 hours a day. Technology's made that possible. Dealers around the world don't want to sit with the stocks. So if they get hit in Tokyo, they pass it on to London and then Australia, wherever the hell they're open. Just get me out.
Even so, some analysts see a silver lining.
Well, I feel encouraged myself, my own opinion, because I feel that people are waiting to see what the response is going to be from the government. And I feel the government's going to help us.
But others are frightened by the parallels between this market decline and the crash of '29, wondering if we're heading where they went. Doomsday was definitely on the mind of one evangelist outside the New York market today.
I'm here for one reason, to tell you that God loves you.
And while some put their faith in the Almighty, others put their money in bonds, which are considered safer than stocks right now.
This is the storm cellar, where people can wait until the storm of a stock market decline blows over.
At any rate, the New York Stock Exchange will continue to close 2 hours early for the rest of this week, trying to cope with all those sell orders. Bree?
The pressures of Wall Street boiled over into violence in Miami. An investor, distraught over losing millions in the market, went to talk to his broker today. He brought a gun with him. He killed one vice president, seriously wounded another, then turned the gun on himself. Correspondent John Crane reports from Miami.
The shock of market losses has new meaning. Wall Street's bloodbath has now gone from paper to human life. 53-year-old investor Arthur Kane snapped after he reportedly lost everything. Kane now leaves a human debt. His broken dreams taken out on advisors. But people at this brokerage house say he was no amateur.
He knew his business, he knew the market, he understood it perfectly. He knew what he was doing.
But Kane's family knew nothing of his fatal plans.
He was distraught when he suffered these great losses, but other than that, there would have been no indication.
Regular traders here at Merrill Lynch say Kane always appeared to be a hyperactive, high-energy trader. They say he became even more so with last week's fall of the stock market.
He had a taste of desperation about him.
Brett Goldstein says Kane told him of the mounting pressure.
In his words, everything I do is turning out wrong. Whatever I do, the opposite is the effect. If I buy, I should have sold. If I sold short, then I should have bought.
But should-haves in this case bring new meaning to dangerous trading.
The worst day in the market history, as far as I'm concerned. Just nothing could be worse than what happened here today. Nothing.
A human toll has now been added to the market's woes. Some say it was just a matter of time. John Crane, Channel 2 News, Miami, Florida.
Meanwhile, at least one big brokerage firm has told its branch offices to increase security if they feel there is a need. Other brokerage houses are expected to follow suit.
What's happening on Wall Street and what will happen to the nation's economy? President Reagan met with congressional leaders today to try to come up with a game plan. The talk, the massive deficit and how to trim it. But that talk may not be cheap. As Channel 2's Reggie Harris found out tonight, taxes may not be far away.
This photo session is supposed to symbolize harmony between the president and bipartisan congressional leaders. Harmony both sides say is necessary to agree on how to reduce the budget deficit by at least $23 billion, the amount of cutting required by the Graham-Rudman balanced budget law.
This morning, I think we were all agreed that we want to seek an answer to this problem.
Tonight, New York Senator Alphonse D'Amato said he favors a combination of across-the-board military and domestic spending cuts, coupled with increased consumption tax increases.
Secondly, I think we raise the tax on gasoline, the tax on home heating oil, the tax on some of the other uses, and again, use that money not for new spending, but for additional deficit reduction. We put those two things together, and I'll tell you, we'll turn the economy around.
Many Democrats gathered on the East Side tonight for a Senate campaign fundraiser at the home of former Ambassador Ann Cox Chambers. 13 Democratic senators were here tonight, each of them with a different view of where and how to cut the deficit.
Tax revenues are going to be raised primarily through excise taxes and through closing some of the loopholes. I do not believe we're going to have an increase in either personal or corporate income tax rates.
Is it possible to cut more than $23 billion?
Possible to cut the deficit more. What we ought to do is think of a sort of 3-year agreement, an honest agreement, to bring that down by about $120 billion.
Well, oil import tax, gasoline tax, at some point we may have to consider value-added tax, but I think the important thing now is not to do things that damage the economy.
Tomorrow, the tough meetings begin with a tough group of negotiators, 3 each from the White House, both major political parties, and both houses of Congress. They have less than a month to agree on deficit reduction, or the cuts will come automatically across the board from the Graham-Rudman law. In Manhattan, Reggie Harris, Channel 2 News.
Stepping up the pressure on Iran, President Reagan today imposed a broad trade embargo in response to Iranian attacks in the Persian Gulf. The presidential order cuts off imports of oil and other goods from Iran. It also stops exports of U.S. machinery that could be used in Iran's war against Iraq. Renewed violence tonight in El Salvador following the murder of Herbert Anaya, a prominent human rights activist. Inmates seized a prison headquarters and mobs burned cars in the capital to protest Anaya's killing. He was an outspoken critic of the Salvadoran government, and some activists blame government forces for Anaya's death.
They are mourning at the White House tonight for the mother of the First Lady. Nancy Reagan's mother, Edith Davis, died today of a stroke at her home in Phoenix. She was 91 years old. We're told the First family will fly to Phoenix tomorrow to make the funeral arrangements. The death of her mother comes just 9 days, of course, after Nancy Reagan's operation for breast cancer.
There's still a lot more news ahead on Channel 2 News at 11.
Going to tell you why the government's key witness had defense lawyers applauding at the Howard Beach trial. Time saver or headache, a new plan for the Lincoln Tunnel gets mixed reviews. And will the storybook romance end unhappily ever after for Charles and Di? All when Channel 2 News at 11 continues. He was the star witness for the prosecution in the Howard Beach trial. But a defense lawyer says the testimony's backfired. Robert Riley is cooperating with authorities in exchange for leniency. He was with the 4 defendants the night they allegedly chased a black man to his death. Well, today, defense attorney Stephen Murphy blasted Riley on the stand during cross-examination. Murphy drilled the witness about the initial confrontation that December night outside a pizza parlor. Riley admitted he saw 2 black men with knives before he noticed a defendant with a bat.
The young white men weren't moving forward. They weren't doing anything. I believe that the jury will infer that they were afraid and they were just standing there. It's only when Riley takes the bat that he moves forward. Nobody else moves forward but Riley.
Murphy says Riley has actually been the best witness for the defense.
Police are looking tonight for a 6-year-old boy who's been missing for 5 days now. Kareem Daoud Thornton Bay was last seen in front of Le Marquis Hotel on East 31st Street in Manhattan. Witnesses say he was with a red-haired man with a mustache in his late 20s. The man drove a 1979 red Monte Carlo. Police are urging anyone with any information to call the Midtown South Precinct. Mayor Koch says he's throwing in the towel in a battle with a priest over a Manhattan building. The debate was over the National Maritime Union building in Chelsea. That's where the mayor wanted to house work release prisoners and homeless men. But Father Bruce Ritter, the director of Covenant House, wanted to turn the building into a shelter for runaways. The city had bid $27 million for the site, but Father Ritter offered $30 million.
You know, the golden rule, which we all should live by, which is do unto others as thou would have others do unto you, was not observed by Father Ritter.
He's using all the enormous power and authority of his office and of the city of New York to intimidate a private citizen.
The mayor says he conceded because he's a pragmatist and knows when he can and cannot win.
Thousands of commuters use the Lincoln Tunnel each and every day, and a new plan is going to make the ride a little bit easier, but depending upon where you sit. Officials want to add an extra lane that'll make the bus ride 15 minutes shorter, but the commute by car 15 minutes longer. Channel 2's Jane Velez-Mitchell reports now on this tunnel tug of war.
Night and day, back and forth, they're warriors in a turf battle. That turf, a tiny spot in a lane on a congested highway. So New Jersey to New York commuters are understandably angry over a plan to ban cars from one entire lane on the New Jersey approach to the Lincoln Tunnel. The idea is to make more room for city-bound buses by taking space away from cars during the morning commute into the city.
I'm against it.
Why?
Absolutely. Well, because it's jammed now with the cars going in with the one bus lane. So with two bus lanes, it'll be just that much worse.
Having a tough enough time getting through here as it is, the cars. Another bus lane, it'd be a hazard for us.
Now, those folks who want a second bus lane point out a little-known fact. About 3/4 of all the people who ride into the Lincoln Tunnel every day do so on a bus. But those buses are restricted to only about 1/4 of all the driving space. Now, bus riders say that's just not fair. Hence, this plan to add an extra New York City-bound lane for buses only along Route 3 in the mornings. It will run from the Meadowlands to the juncture where Route 3, the Turnpike, and 495 meet. Then, going into the tunnel itself, that extra bus lane keeps going, while New York City-bound cars lose one of their 3 lanes. Well, if the car owners lose and the new bus lane is approved, expect to start seeing it sometime next year. Even its most fervent supporters admit it's just another stopgap measure in the traffic crisis. At the Lincoln Tunnel, Jane Velez-Mitchell, Channel 2 News.
Still ahead, are the Yankees making a move in court to move out of the Bronx?
I'll have that story and the action turning ugly at the Garden. Warner with Rangers highlights and all the sports when we continue.
Senators, of course, the twins in disguise. But if you, too, grew up in Washington, D.C., living in the beer garden, you would have picked the Senate.
Confidence all the way.
That was it. There was no question about it. Meanwhile, at the Garden tonight, the Rangers and Flyers 2-2 tie, a great game, unfortunately spoiled by Dave Brown. 40 saves for Van Beesbrook, 39 saves for Hextall. Let's go to the videotape. Second period, no score. Watch Jan Eriksson, 55-footer inside the blue line, off the glove of Hextall. It's 1-0 Rangers. Now, Larry Melnick, 6 feet 180, takes on Brown, who's 6'4", 215, outweighed by 45 pounds. Melnick holds his own. Now, third period 1-1, 5-minute major to Hal. James Patrick scores, 2-1 Rangers. But here is the boo of the week. Watch Dave Brown, number 21, and boom, clobbers Hextall, Sandstrom, high stick, cheap shot. Watch it again. And Brown receives a major and match penalty. They ought to suspend him. Sandstrom, swollen jaw, x-rays. Game ends in a 2-2 tie. Only one other game, the Flames 2 goals in the third period, beat the Canadians 5-3. Well, we were talking about the series last, but he is called out by umpire Dave Phillips. Then, of course, it's Tommy Herr, caught in the rundown. Forget the possible interference by Herbeck. Watch Herr's left foot. And again, Herr, this man is safe, but he's called out by Lee Wire. Come on, videotape. Each winning Twins share $85,000. The losing Cardinals $56,000. By the way, the Cardinals, in a nice gesture, you know they were hurt all year, voted a half a share to the team's orthopedic surgeon. I'm sure he didn't need it, but you know. And 12 players have filed for free agency, including Dave Righetti. All right, the Giants, the pick yesterday, take the Giants and give the 9.5. If you did, you were in good shape. Let's go to the videotape. A new wrinkle, which we might see for a long time now. Number 33, George Adams, his first start in a Giant uniform, coming out of the backfield, 6 receptions for 79 yards. And one of the finest catches of the season, Lionel Manuel with a broken hand makes the grab. And it's amazing that Sims could be that sharp after 5 weeks off. And it's also a good thing it wasn't a home game for the Cardinals. Otherwise, they would have been calling for the replacements. Look at Earl Farrell. They call him Wrong Way Earl. And Vi Sikahima on the punt return is tackled by the Phantom. Meanwhile, the pick, no, sir. We said take the Skins, give 6.5. They, of course, won by only 1. And as bad as the Jets' offense and defensive line were, no sacks, and also with letting in 7 sacks, they still could have won the game if they had stopped these 2 plays. Let's go to the videotape. Fourth quarter, 16-7 Jets, 7 minutes left, 2nd and 10. And it was Schrader to Kelvin Bryant. 39-yard gain, and then 3 plays later, it was 16-14. And the other play, 3rd and 10, and it was Schrader to Ricky Sanders, and this helped set up the field goal, 17-16. Jets play the Colts here next Sunday, and the Giants play the Cowboys in Dallas Monday night. Browns lead the Rams 30-14 in the 3rd quarter, and the Vikes lead the Broncos 20-17 in the 3rd quarter. And again, the best bet in the NFL, when the home team is underdog by 3 points or more, take them. If you did that yesterday, you would have gone 3 for 3. Saints, Colts, Tampa Bay, all home underdog beat the spread. And the Houston Oilers, rumored to move to Jacksonville. No, sir, it's over. They have signed a new lease and will stay in Houston. This is Warner Wolf. Michael?
Was it my imagination or was there something
missing? It was your
missing?
imagination.
Probably that, too.
What was that?
No Gatorade at the end of the win last night for the Giants.
And you might not see that at all. That's right. You know, when I looked at Parcells, he looked like a man who said, I've had it, I'm disillusioned, and I may retire. That's the expression I saw on Parcells' face.
Never seen a grimmer face in victory before. You're right. Okay, Warner. Yeah, we don't want to see it around here. Thank you, Warner. Still ahead, goodbye to the sun, hello to the rain. Dr. Frank Field with a wet forecast.
And is a gray cloud hanging over the royal marriage? Stay tuned.
You're watching Channel 2 News at 11. Judge New York's best newscast by United Press International.
Well, we had a great weekend, so I guess it can rain now.
Oh, all right. If it's all right with you, it's all right with the folks out there, if it's all right with Warner, that's what you're going to get. Right now in the Midtown area, we have generally fair skies. It's 46 degrees. Enjoyed a high today of 59. If you're out in the sun with light winds, it felt even warmer than that. 33 degrees at Iceland. A little chilly there. It's also that way at Poughkeepsie. Winds calm at the moment. Barometers falling. That means the change is on its way. Fair skies covering all of the Atlantic seaboard, as you can see today. This is the area of clouds that's beginning to shift in our direction. We have 2 elements that are beginning to move this way. First, the line of scattered showers along the cool front. This is rather chilly air back over the plain states. Another, an area of low pressure that's beginning to develop down in the lower Mississippi Valley. The 2 systems will kind of come together right on top of us. So as the ridge of high pressure and cool air that we've enjoyed the last couple of days moves away from us, we start getting into the next weather system. That's the cool dome of air that's pressing down and heading over our way, preceded by the scattered showers. At the same time, this low pressure will deepen, move right up along the line, so that by tomorrow this should be the picture. The cool front moving eastward, the low hacking right on to that cool front moving up the coast. The timing is such that the front will pass across tomorrow night at the same time that the low moves up the coast, and that means rain tomorrow night into Wednesday. Then a clearing trend on Thursday and Friday. The forecast for the metropolitan area, mostly clear skies tonight. On the chilly side, southeasterly winds. For tomorrow, starting out with sunshine, increasing clouds in the afternoon, showers, and then rain moving in tomorrow evening and tomorrow night. And the 5-day forecast, that wet weather will linger into Wednesday. A gradual improvement Wednesday afternoon. A mixture of sunshine and clouds on Thursday, some nice weather Friday and Saturday, but then that cool air will be sitting on top of us. And just a reminder that if you stay tuned right after this broadcast, you don't have to watch Johnny Carson. It's a repeat, right? Sure, don't watch him. Get Out Alive tonight with Dr. Frank Field. Hundreds of people die because of fires in our metropolitan area. I think you'll learn something if you do watch.
Very important stuff. Glad we're airing that again.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's a good show. You don't have to knock Carson to get people to watch.
He's a friend. He doesn't mind.
Yeah. Thank you, Frank. Yeah, he's watching it himself. Are they closing the book on a fairy tale romance? That's the big question in Britain these days. Seems that Prince Charles and Princess Diana have been living apart ever since September. The prince has been vacationing in Scotland, the princess back in London. The British press is having a field day speculating about their futures. Separate We don't know. Last week, though, Charles and Diana toured flood-stricken Wales. It's one of their few appearances together recently, and reporters say they barely looked at each other. Well, maybe the rumors are true. Maybe they are headed for Splitsville. And again, maybe it's kind of tough to be romantic in the middle of a disaster zone.
Yeah, or a fishbowl.
Absolutely.
That's it for Channel 2 News at 11. I'm Bree Walker.
I'm Mike Schneider. Our coverage continues tomorrow with the CBS Morning News and then on Channel 2 News at noon. Till then, good night.
If you see news in the making, tell 2. Call the Channel 2 News toll-free hotline, 1-800-CH2-NEWS.